What if I told you that Michael Jordan's greatest weapon wasn't his fadeaway jumper, his clutch gene, or even his 6 championships? It was something far more sinister, his ability to psychologically destroy opponents before the game even started. Today, we're diving into the dark psychology behind MJ's dominance, and I guarantee you'll never look at greatness the same way again. Welcome back to the channel, basketball fanatics. I'm your host, and if you're passionate about understanding what really separates legends from everyone else, you're in the right place. Before we unlock the secrets of Jordan's mental warfare, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because we're about to reveal psychological tactics that most athletes could never even imagine using. The fear factor. Let's start with something that sounds almost too crazy to be true. Michael Jordan could literally tell opponents he was going to drop 50 points on them and then go out and do exactly that. But here's what makes this terrifying. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't just talent. It was calculated psychological warfare. Stephen A. Smith, who witnessed Jordan's era firsthand, describes something that goes beyond normal trash talk. When Jordan made these declarations, opponents felt something they rarely experienced in professional sports: genuine fear. Not fear of getting hurt, but fear of the inevitable humiliation that was coming. Think about this from a psychological perspective. In professional sports, athletes are conditioned to believe in themselves, to think they can beat anyone on any given night. That confidence is crucial for peak performance, but Jordan had the unique ability to shatter that confidence before the opening tip-off. He didn't just say he was going to dominate, he had a track record of doing exactly what he promised. This created a terrifying precedent where opponents knew that Jordan's threats weren't empty boasts. They were previews of their upcoming nightmare. The intimidation blueprint. But Jordan's psychological dominance wasn't random or accidental. It followed a specific pattern that reveals the calculated nature of his mental approach to competition. Stephen A. Smith breaks down this process in fascinating detail. First, Jordan would study his opponent, not just their playing style, but their personality, their weaknesses, their triggers. He was looking for psychological pressure points that he could exploit when the moment was right. Then came the setup phase. Jordan would often make personal comments or criticisms designed to provoke his opponent. This wasn't about being mean for the sake of it. It was strategic manipulation. He wanted his opponents fired up, emotional, and playing outside their comfort zone. Here's the genius part. While his opponents were playing with heightened emotion and making mistakes, Jordan remained ice-cold and composed. He had turned their intensity into his advantage, using their own competitive fire against them. The final phase was the execution, where Jordan would methodically dismantle his emotionally charged opponent while maintaining perfect control over his own performance. By the end of the game, his opponent wasn't just beaten on the scoreboard. They were psychologically broken. The motivation trap. One of the most fascinating aspects of Jordan's approach was how he would actually motivate his opponents to play better, but only so he could destroy them more completely. This reveals a level of competitive sadism that's almost hard to comprehend. Jordan understood that beating someone when they're not at their best leaves room for excuses. I was having an off night, or I wasn't feeling well, or I didn't bring my A game. These excuses create doubt about who's really better. But if you completely dominate someone when they're playing the best basketball of their life, that's a psychological kill shot. There are no excuses, no what-ifs, no lingering doubts. The message is crystal clear. Even when you're at your absolute peak, I'm still in a completely different league. Stephen A. Smith explains that Jordan would deliberately provoke opponents to ensure they brought their maximum effort. He wanted them at 100% intensity so that when he dismantled them, the defeat would be so complete and undeniable that they would never again believe they could compete with him. This wasn't just about winning games, it was about breaking spirits and establishing permanent psychological dominance over his competition. The annihilation strategy. What separates Jordan from other great competitors is that winning wasn't enough for him. He sought a level of dominance so complete that it would scar his opponents mentally, ensuring that future matchups were decided before they even began. This is where Jordan's competitive psychology becomes almost frightening. He didn't just want to beat you. He wanted to remove any possibility that you would ever again think you belonged on the same court with him. By systematically destroying opponents at their absolute peak, Jordan was essentially programming them to expect defeat. He was creating a psychological conditioning where facing him triggered memories of previous humiliation and inevitable failure. This explains the intimidation factor that followed Jordan throughout his career. Players would step onto the court already second-guessing themselves because they had experienced the full force of his dominance before. He had already won the mental battle before the physical competition even started. It's a level of competitive ruthlessness that's rare even among elite athletes. Most champions are satisfied with winning. Jordan was obsessed with ensuring his opponents never forgot who was superior. Of course, no discussion of Jordan's dominance would be complete without addressing the eternal question: how would he fare against today's competition? Joe Budden raises an intriguing point about the evolution of athletic ability in the modern NBA. Here's what we know about Jordan's adaptability. He thrived on challenge and adversity. Every obstacle became fuel for his competitive fire. Based on his track record, it's reasonable to assume he would have evolved his mental game to match whatever new challenges modern players presented. The players might be different, but human psychology remains fundamentally the same. Jordan's understanding of mental pressure points, his ability to exploit emotional weaknesses, and his skill at psychological manipulation would likely translate to any era. The imperfection paradox. Joe Budden makes another crucial point that actually strengthens Jordan's legacy rather than diminishing it. Even Jordan had moments where he got cooked defensively. This observation is important because it humanizes the legend while highlighting what made him truly special. No player in basketball history has been perfect. Even the greatest defenders have possessions where they get beaten. What separated Jordan wasn't the absence of failure. It was how he responded to it. When Jordan did have a defensive breakdown, it didn't become a pattern. Instead, it became motivation. He would use those rare moments of being beaten as fuel to completely lock down his opponent for the rest of the game or series. This resilience, this ability to bounce back immediately from any setback, was part of what made his psychological dominance so complete. Opponents learned that even when they managed to score on him, it only made him more dangerous. The lasting psychological legacy. When you analyze all these accounts from people who witnessed Jordan's era, a clear picture emerges of psychological dominance that went far beyond physical basketball skills. Jordan understood that championship-level competition is as much mental as physical, and he developed strategies to win both battles simultaneously. His approach created a permanent psychological hierarchy in the NBA where other players understood there was Michael Jordan, and then there was everyone else. This wasn't just about talent. It was about a comprehensive system of mental warfare that ensured his dominance was both immediate and lasting. Players who faced Jordan often described feeling defeated before games even started, not because they weren't talented, but because Jordan had systematically programmed them to expect failure when competing against him. This is what true greatness looks like, not just being better than everyone else, but making sure everyone else knows it and feels it in a way that becomes permanently embedded in their competitive consciousness. What do you think about Jordan's psychological approach to competition? Was this level of mental warfare necessary for his dominance, or could he have achieved the same results through pure talent? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing different perspectives on what separates legends from everyone else. If this deep dive into the psychology of greatness fascinated you, make sure you're subscribed, because we've got more untold stories about what really happens behind the scenes in professional sports. Hit that like button if you learned something new about MJ today, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember, championships fade, but psychological dominance is forever.